AI is, well, it's everywhere, right? It's changing everything. But it kind of begs the question, who's actually writing the rules for all this? That's what we're digging into today, AI governance. Think of it as the worldwide scramble to build some guardrails for, honestly, one of the most powerful technologies we've ever cooked up. All right, let's get into it. So, here's the plan. First, we're going to tackle why we even need rules for AI in the first place. Then, we'll get into what trustworthy AI actually means. After that, we'll put two real-world blueprints side by side, talk about the real struggles of making them work, and then, peek into the future to see what's coming next. All right, so first up, what's the big deal, right? Why is literally everyone, from governments to the biggest tech companies, in this mad dash to create rules for AI? Well, it all boils down to this one fundamental conflict. Okay, on the one hand, you've got this incredible potential. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, puts it perfectly. AI technologies could totally transform our society. And we're not just talking about small tweaks here. We are talking about massive improvements to pretty much every part of our lives. But, and this is the big but, for all that promise, there's a flip side. A pretty serious one. So you've got AI that could help us find scientific breakthroughs, right? But those same systems can also perpetuate unfair biases. The very tech that could get you better healthcare could also make inequality worse. And those amazing models, they're energy hogs, seriously impacting our carbon footprint. It is the definition of a double-edged sword. And that right there is the entire point of AI governance. It's not about slamming the brakes on progress. No way. It's about grabbing the steering wheel. It's the answer to that central challenge. How do we get all the good stuff while protecting ourselves from the bad? This is the framework we're trying to build to make sure we do just that. Okay, that leads us right into our next big idea because, let's be real, none of this works if we can't trust these systems. But here's the thing. When we talk about AI governance, trust isn't just some vague feeling in your gut. It's something concrete. It's something you actually have to build piece by piece. So, what is trustworthy AI? Well, it's a system that has a bunch of specific, measurable qualities. You can almost think of them like ingredients in a recipe. They're the things you need to mix in to make sure the final product, the AI system, is not just valid and safe, but also actually lines up with our human values. So what's in this recipe for trust? According to NIST, there are 7 key ingredients. An AI system has to be valid and reliable. It has to actually do what it says it's going to do. It's got to be safe, secure, and resilient, so it can't be easily hacked. And this part is absolutely crucial. It has to be accountable and transparent, explainable so we know why it made a decision, privacy-enhancing, and fair, with a huge emphasis on managing harmful bias. And this really nails a key point. These 7 characteristics, they're not just a checklist you run through at the very end, right before you ship the product. Nope. They have to be baked in from the very beginning. We're talking from the moment an idea is conceived, through all the data collection, to how it's deployed and watched over out in the wild. It's part of the entire life cycle. All right, so now we have our 7 building blocks of trust. But, how do you actually use them to build something? Let's take a look at 2 very different blueprints for how this is being done right now. And these 2 approaches couldn't be more different. We're going to look at one that's basically a super detailed, technical user manual for any company or group building AI. And then we'll look at another that's more like a grand societal vision for an entire continent. It's pretty cool to see the contract. First up, let's look at the user manual. This is the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. It's a really practical 4-step process. First, you govern, which is all about creating a culture that takes risks seriously. Then you map out the situation and figure out what could go wrong. After that, you measure those risks, you test them, track them, and finally, you manage them. And the key is, it's not a one-and-done deal. It's a loop, a continuous cycle you just keep repeating. Okay, now let's switch gears completely and look at that continental vision. This is the African Union strategy, and it's way less of a how-to guide and much more of a guiding philosophy. The principles here are big, and they're driven by values. It's all about being local first, using AI to solve African challenges with African solutions. It's people-centered, it's grounded in human rights, ethics, and transparency, and it's all built on the idea of cooperation. And there's a really important reason for this unique focus. Just look at the global landscape. There's a huge AI divide. The African Union strategy isn't just about playing defense and managing risks. It's about playing offense. It's about building up the capacity to make sure the continent can use AI for its own development and ultimately bridge that gap.
This right here just shows the difference in scales so perfectly. On the one side, you've got NIST's detailed cyclical process, which is all about what happens inside a single project or organization. On the other side, you have the AU's big picture tiers of governance, looking at everything from national laws to regional policies. It's a fantastic reminder that AI governance has to operate on both of these levels, the micro and the macro.
Okay, so we've got these incredible blueprints, right? Seems like we've got it all figured out, but it's never that easy. So now we've got to talk about what happens when these awesome plans actually smack into reality. This is where governance meets the real world. So, I'm going to ask you, what do you think are the biggest hurdles? What's really stopping us from just putting all this great stuff into practice? Well, when you look at the research, a few big challenges keep popping up. For starters, you've got huge regulatory gaps. The law just moves so much slower than the tech. Then there's the famous black box problem. Some of these AIs are so complex, we literally don't know how they reach their conclusions. How do you hold that accountable? Of course, there's data governance. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Biased data means biased AI. And finally, you just have plain old human resistance inside organizations. So yeah, these are some pretty massive challenges, but it doesn't mean good governance is impossible. Not at all. It just means the job is never really done. So let's take a step back and talk about the big picture. Where do we go from here? If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. AI governance is not a destination. It's not some report you write, stick on a shelf, and forget about. It has to be a living, breathing thing. It's a constant process, just like that NIST cycle of mapping what's happening, measuring the impact, and managing the risks in a world that is changing ridiculously fast. And we are talking about the long haul here. This is not a quick fix. Just look at the African Union's strategy again. It's mapped out in phases all the way to 2030. That's a clear signal that this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take years of sustained effort and constantly adapting as we go. So the blueprints are being drawn up. The structure isn't even close to being finished, but we know what the pieces are. The final and maybe most important question is, who gets to be the architect? Who gets to decide what this all looks like in the end?